obviously confidence is a huge part of bowling,
Right.
or I guess any sport, but especially
Hmm.
bowling. When someone has had success for a long time, you look at them and say, of course, they have confidence because they've had the success. So the success bolsters the confidence.
Right. Right.
How do you feel that you gain confidence prior to having the success? How do you gain confidence that you're going to win a
Yeah.
title before winning the title?
Right. I think that for me, and it could be different for other people, but I really think the small goal setting,
Mm,
even if you go down to each day or each tournament, small goal setting will help you would help me build
mm,
confidence. So if I went into a tournament and I wasn't feeling totally 100% that I had the capabilities to win, I would still set small goals for myself. I'd be like, all right, let's just go plus today. Like
mm,
we'll start there, we'll figure it out. Let's just go plus, don't go minus or go even at least.
mm-hmm.
And so I would set that as my goal rather than, oh, we have to lead after this block. If I want a chance to win, I have to be top five after this block. I would just set small goals for myself and I would focus on achieving that goal rather than trying to compete against scores that I don't even know are happening,
Mm,
right?
right.
So I think for anybody, especially youth bowlers, it's easy to get caught up and I used to be this person. It was really easy to get caught up in what other people were doing.
Mm,
So if I looked over and I saw another girl shoot 250, I would freak out because I just shot 170.
right.
But I don't even know that she shot 170 the game before,
Sure.
you know? So it's easy to score watch, and I'm still working on that, of
Mm.
course. But I think just setting small goals for yourself, every time you achieve that goal, it gives yourself a little bit more confidence in your ability, and that'll eventually build up to winning a title.
How do you how do you remain patient?
Well, I know that I am young in my bowling career, so I am in no rush to break records and win titles and all that kind of thing. I know that what I'm doing and how I'm improving my own game is I'm moving in the right direction. I'm
Right.
doing the right things. And I know that I'm going to need experience, over time just to be able to push through that barrier of winning a
Sure.
title. And so I'm not going to rush that process because if I do, I'll probably bowl really bad. I'm just going to hang out and wait for my time.
How do you mentally prepare for a tournament or even like when you're going on tour and getting ready for that?
Yeah, well, it's definitely exhausting. I mean, even with the travel, I know it's not so much mentally as it is just moving in general, but the same thing applies. We are bowling day in and day out, and so at the end of the day, like you should be mentally exhausted. If you're not, then you're probably not doing something right, or it was an easy pattern or something. I don't know.
Right.
There's so many factors that can affect your mental strength and
Sure.
endurance. Um, but I think the biggest thing for me was just going and knowing that this was going to be mentally exhausting and that it was going to be a very long tournament, but
Mm,
also a sprint at the same time.
mm-hmm.
Like you were just constantly going. And so I think having that expectation or the knowledge that it was going to be mentally difficult is what helped me stay in it for as long as I did.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I knew not every day was going to be sunshine and rainbows,
Right.
but there's always going to be the next day,
Sure.
you know?
And I know you mentioned you're not able to practice as much as you'd like right now, but how do you stay sharp when not on tour?
Yeah, well, practicing as much as you can. I'm doing tournaments as much as you can. So we just got back from Arizona yesterday
Okay.
from a big tournament down there. But there's all these local tournaments we have lined up as well over the next couple weekends. Just getting yourself out in that competitive environment will help me stay sharp for tour next year. Just so I'm not going into a tournament and I forget what it's like to go head to head against someone, in the event of a match play or a step ladder.
Do you bowl league or anything like that during the when you're not on tour?
I would like to. Unfortunately, I'm not in one right now.
Mm.
I've subbed. I will continue to sub at the local league just to just to be there, just to bowl, to throw
Right.
shots. But right now, no, I'm not in a league.
What is your strategy when you find yourself getting lost?
Well, that's a really good question because I got lost in Arizona. I was not a good time. Bowling did not go very well, but I can still look back at this past weekend when I felt lost in bowling and still be okay with it because I tried everything that I could think of.
Hmm.
And no matter where I was on the lane or what ball I was using, if it didn't work, I probably gave it two shots and then I put that ball away and tried something else.
Hmm.
So it's okay to be lost. You're not going to have all the right answers all the time, but as long as you're trying to figure out a different way to achieve that same goal, then you're doing everything that you can. Sometimes you just don't have it.
Hmm.
I didn't have it, but I
Hmm.
was still trying to find it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing. It's easy for, especially the younger bowlers, I think, or less experienced bowlers to be frustrated that what they're doing isn't working, but
Hmm.
then they won't change.
Hmm.
You have to try to do something different, figure out something different, or even, just, throw out a shot that that's not going to work just to prove it to yourself that that's not going to work.
Right. Check it
But
off the
there is
list.
that small chance that it does.
Right.
And so if you're able to do something different and it works, then that's how you learn from bowling. And that'll prepare you for the next event just as much.
For you, what is the easiest part of bowling and the hardest part about bowling?
I think the easiest part of bowling is just physically throwing the ball, having the ball come off your hand, just letting it go. That's the easy part. The hardest part is making sure that you're letting it go in the right spot.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, and I was actually thinking about this the other weekend. It's There's so many different combinations of bowling balls and
Mm-hmm.
surfaces and patterns. There's so many that they're not one person can think of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as you're trying and you're there, then you're gonna find it eventually.
Right. That's all you can do sometimes. Is just
Yeah,
try different
it
things,
is.
see what happens.
Absolutely.
Uh, do you have a favorite ball right now that's just your go-to get out of jail free card that just is a staple for you?
Yeah. Well, so my phase three has always been a favorite ball. I
Mm-hmm.
used it all through college. Unfortunately, I don't get to use it as much on tour just because
Right.
it's at the bottom of my arsenal. It's one of my weaker balls.
Right.
And so it's kind of nichey as well. So
Mm.
the lanes have to be perfect condition for me to bring that ball out. That's just my favorite.
Yeah.
A ball that I would use a lot, um, over the tour season, I use my infinite physics a lot, but
Okay.
that's also discontinued.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm saving those up, not
Right.
using them very much. But phase twos, I mean, it's the perfect benchmark ball
Yeah.
that Storm has right now.
Yeah. The phase three has always been a good look for me too. I was what disappointed that they discontinued it, but I've got one more in a box that I
Yeah,
haven't drilled yet,
me
and
too.
I did find one or on Amazon. Somebody still got some, so every so often I keep
Nice.
checking to see if I need to get another one or not. But
Right.
I've got enough bowling balls in boxes that I probably need to drill all those first before I go buy more.
Hey, you can never have too many bowling balls.
That's right.
So lately I've been doing something similar. I've been stocking up on all of the infinite physics and the Zen souls. So I actually just got a Zen soul in the mail the other day.
Okay.
So I have maybe four Zen souls now,
Wow.
and I think I only have two infinites left
Okay.
undrilled, but I still
Okay.
have two that are drilled and usable. So we're okay for a minute, but
Okay.
I'm starting to load up on all the balls that I know that are my favorites and that I know work well for me. And then I'll save them and drill them for when I need them on tour next year.
So I really liked the proton physics, and so when the
Hmm.
infinite physics came out, I was like, well, sure, why not? And
Yeah.
I I have yet to really find where it fits in my bag. Where do you typically like to play with yours?
Of course, it depends on the pattern.
Sure.
And then I also have two infinites and they're drilled differently. So it
Okay.
depends on which one I'm using as well.
Okay.
So I have a pin down
Mm.
infinite physics. Usually when I'm throwing that ball, it's either the shorter patterns or the straighter angles.
Okay.
Just something that's going to pick up a little earlier and then lay off when it gets to the end of the pattern.
Okay.
My pin up infinite has a much stronger reaction down lane.
Mm.
And so that's the ball that if I were to have to move left on a pattern, but I was throwing an infinite, it would be that one.
Okay.
Just because I know it's going to push through the middle of the body a little bit better and then make it flip.
Do you try to do that in tournaments? So say you're playing more to the right and you need to start transitioning left, and the ball you're using is just giving up on the back end.
Yeah.
Will you change to the same ball but like a pin down in that situation, or a pin up to try to
Yeah.
stick with the same kind of react or look, but with the same kind of ball but a different drilling?
Right. I haven't done that before.
Okay.
I've always had both of my infinites on tour with me, but I haven't come across a pattern or a scenario in which I would go from one to the other.
Okay.
But it is really common for me to have to change balls whenever I do move left, just because I can't get it to read in the right part of the lane.
Okay.
That's something I've dealt with for years. So,
Because I've seen one time before I saw at a tournament, a guy showed up with two bags, and he
Mhm.
had a spare ball, and it was like 5 IQ tours or something like that, and
Yeah.
they were all drilled differently and then had different surfaces on them. And
Mhm.
he would start with one, and when it was done, he just had a system he went through, but rolling the same ball the whole tournament.
Yeah.
And I found that to be interesting. That it's an interesting
Yeah.
strategy, which most people just change to a whole different ball with a
Right.
different RG or differential and play a different part of the
Mhm.
lane.
Yeah. Well, it is very common, especially on the women or the pro tour, I should say, to have multiple of the same ball all
Mm,
drilled differently. I mean, just at tour champs in Iowa, Verity was there
mm,
because she was bowling. And I remember her, I was kind of eavesdropping on a conversation she was having with one of the ball reps. She wanted to drill a new phase two, which was not uncommon.
hmm.
But then I remember her saying, "Well, I already have five
Yeah.
out here." She had five phase twos, all different pin lengths and drilled all
Yep.
differently. And so it was just a cool conversation to listen to. Just 'cause she had five phase twos,
Yeah.
and she probably used them all,
Mm,
I'm assuming.
at some point.
But yeah, I mean, it just goes to show the wide variety of options we have as bowlers,
Sure.
from the types of balls and then even smaller to like the pin lengths or
Right.
the top weight of the core, all those
Right.
kind of things. There's so much to think about.
Do you think that sometimes there are too many options that like you're in a tournament, you've got all these different bowling balls with you, and like you said in Arizona, you were going through everything you had. Do you think
Hmm.
sometimes there are just too many options that maybe if you would have only had 3 balls with you, and you said, well, I've only got 2 reactives,
I've only got these.
I've got to
Yeah.
make these work. Do you think sometimes that's better than just bouncing around from different balls and just spraying and praying kind of thing?
Yeah, it definitely could be. 'Cause I've even said it to myself multiple times. I'll be dragging in 4 bags.
Mm,
Like I have 12 bowling balls to go through, and it doesn't matter which one I use because I can hit the pocket with all of them.
right.
So it's definitely easy to feel like there are too many options. But especially on tour, like you would rather have all of the options than
Sure.
only two.
Sure.
So that's a hard battle to win.
Right. So, what things do you like to do when you're not bowling? Do you have any hobbies or any interests?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed reading lately.
Okay.
I know was never much of a reader when I was in school, but since I'm finally done with reading because I've been told to, I've, you know, I've gone through quite a lot of books this summer, just sitting down and enjoying the weather outside, and I'll read my book for an hour, or I'll finish the whole book in a day if it's
Mm,
really good.
yeah. What are you reading right now? What type of books do you like?
Oh, but right now I just started a Stephen King book.
Mm,
Unfortunately, I can't remember the name of it. Billy Summers, maybe.
okay.
But I just started that. I'm not very deep into it. But this summer I've pretty much read everything of Colleen Hoover,
Okay.
read all of her books, and I've enjoyed them. Her storytelling is very well done. But I am starting to get into the Stephen King's. Nothing too scary yet because I don't
Okay.
know about that one. Um, but I do like the mysteries or the murder mysteries, murder solving
Right.
books. I
Agatha
think those are
Christie type
fun.
stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think those are fun, and they make for a good escape from reality for a little while.
Cool. So I enjoyed your popcorn jersey on tour. Are you a big popcorn
Yeah,
fan?
I am. I am. And then I watch movies all the time. I am definitely a movie person over a TV
Okay.
show person.
Okay.
And so I wanted a jersey that was not only custom but personal to me. It
Mm-hmm.
meant something. And so I was like, I love movies. What do you get at the movies? You get a bucket of popcorn. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a jersey that's a bucket of popcorn.
What's your
Um,
favorite movie?
Greatest game ever played.
Oh, okay. With Shia LaBeouf.
Mm-hmm.
That is a really
Yeah,
good
I've
movie.
always loved that movie.
How would your friends and family describe you?
Uh, s- well, so I'm very competitive, but I'm also very blunt.
Mm.
So, and that can hurt me sometimes. Um, but I like to, I'm always going to be honest with you. Like if I think you're doing something wrong and you ask for my advice, I'm going to tell
Mm.
you that you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I may not have the answers, but I'm going to tell you that obviously something's wrong there.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm also very caring. I'm very big-hearted, especially to the people who are closest to me.
Mm.
It's easy for me to come across as private or
Mm.
um just distant from people
Mm-hmm.
if you don't really know me. But if you're one of my people, then I'm gonna love you forever.
Hmm.
That kind of thing. So
Would you
I
consider
like to
yourself?
crack a few jokes.
Yeah. Do you know any good jokes?
I love puns.
Okay.
Puns are fun,
Yeah.
just because I think they're so dorky that it's hard not to laugh at them. So I enjoy a good pun every once in a while.
What makes you feel most alive?
Hmm, that's a good question. I I am going to say all of the like rough patches that I've been through, whether in bowling or in life or
Hmm.
whatever, all the hard things, because I think they make you appreciate the good moments even more.
Hmm.
So I can't really give a specific example about that right now, but
Right.
if I'm going through a difficult time and in the middle of a tournament, say I shoot 120,
Right.
like give me a few days, maybe a few hours, and I'll go back and I'll laugh at that.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, I actually do have a perfect example. We were down in Arizona, and I'm struggling hardcore on this pattern, and I look up at my score, which is not good.
Hmm.
It's the seventh frame, and I have 79
Okay.
in the seventh frame. And I like internally looked at myself. I was like, Hopi, are you gonna get to triple digits here? I don't know about this one.
Yeah.
Like I'm a pro. I just won Rookie of the Year, and I have 79 in the seventh.
Well, it
So,
makes me feel better about my games then.
well, I mean, it's just little things like that. Like you would never expect. I would hope people would never expect someone of my caliber to be in that position, but it happens
Hmm.
to everybody, not just me.
I know
And
Norm.
so
I know Norm Duke bowled a 120 one time. So I mean,
right,
it's just like it just
it
happens.
happens. Yeah, Jordan Richards shot 120 in Cleveland, and then
Hmm.
she followed it up with back-to-back 300s or whatever it was.
Right.
So just because you have a bad game doesn't mean it's a bad day.
Right.
You just got to be strong enough to overcome that.
Hmm.
But I think it's those bad moments that make, the good moments feel as good as they are, just
Sure.
because you've been through it. You've seen the other side of things.
Right. Who or what would you say has had the biggest influence on your life?
My dad,
Hmm.
yeah, I grew up playing sports a lot because of him, just because I loved competing, and so he really helped. He poured gas on that fire, we'll say it that way. I was so competitive with everything.
Hmm.
He was always there, and well, both my parents, they were always there and encouraging me to be better and do better and
Sure.
try new things or whatever it was. So both my parents.
Did you ever have trouble controlling your emotions being so competitive?
Yes,
Yeah.
all the time. Yeah, because sometimes because you clash that with the expectations that I have for myself,
Mm-hmm.
especially when I'm bowling or just performing in general or competing. And so I have my expectations and then I have what's actually happening and they're not lining up. And it's
Right.
very easy for me to get super frustrated, or just down on myself and that kind of thing.
How do you keep that from just completely crushing you?
I'm still trying to figure that out. Having people behind me and having someone who is there to, try to help calm me down. It may not work every time, but just having someone there. So for Arizona example, Alec was there behind me
Mm,
for every shot. So it was nice to have him to go back to, even if I didn't want to listen to what he had to say. He
right.
was there, and
Yeah.
that meant a lot. So
Right. What is your favorite bowling memory?
bowling memory. Oh, my collegiate team. We shot a Baker 300
Hmm.
for
That's
at our
awesome.
conference tournament my last year. Or sorry, was that my senior year? It was my true senior year, so year four.
Okay.
We shot a Baker 300 at conference. That
That's
was
very
really
cool.
cool.
That's,
Yeah. Well, because we had gotten to the front 11 a couple times before that. Once in Wisconsin, and I threw a really good shot, and the messenger missed.
mm,
So that was the first 299. And then in Vegas, um, later that season, we had the front 11. And then I was like, okay, like we're gonna be a little slower on this one to see if
mm-hmm.
we can carry that tip in. It got a little dramatic, and I left a four pin
Oh,
because I threw it too slow.
right.
Um, Ironically, both of those 299s were shot with the same ball, a Strata hybrid.
Okay.
The Baker 300 that we actually ended up getting, I was throwing a Rodman Pearl.
Mm.
And so I'm going up before the 12th shot, and Becca Hagerman, she looks at me and she goes, "Don't worry, you're not throwing the strata, you're throwing a Rodman, so you're gonna get it." And
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay, Becca, okay." Like, let's just like I'm gonna try to walk first, because a situation like that, I'm so nervous, I'm
Mm.
so scared, because I want this not only for me but for my team as
Sure.
well.
Yeah.
It's a really cool accomplishment to
Right.
say. Like when I was in college, I was a part of a Baker 300.
Right.
And so we had gotten so close so many times before. I was like, I want this, and I'm nervous, and we're bowling for the conference championship, and so my legs were shaking.
Yeah.
That's a scary moment. I don't think I've ever been that nervous than I was in that moment. Um, but that was my favorite memory by far. Just letting the ball go and then celebrating with the girls after. It was really something special.
Yeah. Once it's finally off your hands and your hand can stop shaking and it's like you made a good shot,
Yeah,
it's like, okay, it's on the lane. It looks good.
yeah,
I did my part.
yeah. Took me a few minutes to calm down afterwards. I
Yeah.
had to sit down, drink some water, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But that was a memory that I'll never forget.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for your time,
Yes, thanks for having me.
and
It's
good
been
luck.
fun.
Good luck next season. Hopefully, have you back on when you win your title next year. Multiple
Yeah,
titles.
sounds good. Hopefully.
That's right. All right.
Yeah.
Have a
Well,
good rest of your day, and thank you again.
thank you very much.
All right. Take care. Thanks for watching. Please share this episode with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next time on The Bowler's Mind.